Hey folks, this is Rabble Rousing Rich Bergeron,
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Tornado Tony Pennicamp.
and we got a lot to talk about. I did not watch the big fight this weekend. That's a whole nother story why. Involved a friend of mine from high school. His brother had PTSD, and he got involved in a little bit of an incident, and I ended up babysitting him for the weekend. And let's just say there were a lot of police officers and firemen here to deal with his madness, but yeah, so I missed out on the fight altogether.
Oh,
It was a wild night. Tried to help a guy out, but
well,
I was not qualified.
yeah, like what Blake said before we got on the air, Saturday night, I had already had tickets for 2 years. It had been rescheduled 3 times for that live Bronx Tale Show, which was down in the neighborhood outside of Philly where I grew up. And, my friend Mike, I said, we grew up in this neighborhood. Our grade school was 2 blocks away. I said, we kind of have to go to this. And his wife went, my parents went. So we were toying with the idea, like, could we get home in time for the fight? You figure I live about 40 minutes away. So I'm like, even if we had pre-ordered it or whatever, we would get home. But then it's like, we wanted to stop, have a drink and all that. So we're sitting in the bar. We're like, okay, we're not going to try to rush home to get this. We're just going to kind of follow it online. So we're sitting there at the bar. We're having a drink, talking to another friend of ours from high school, and these young guys next to us, yo, man, Fury knocked him out. He kicked his ass. Really? Holy shit. We didn't even know it started yet. Oh, my God, Fury kicked his ass. What was it, 2, 3 rounds? No, man, 7 rounds. Oh, just like the last time. Huh. I'm like, yo, man, let me look up online. Let me see what happened. What do you mean they haven't gotten in the ring yet? These 2 fucking drunk idiots looked at the result from the fight 2 years ago. And basically we're like, these idiots, So we were sitting in the bar, and, through the first few rounds, we were only just getting little tidbits coming in. And then bar was closing up. I was driving home. I had it up on my phone, so every stop sign or every red light, I was doing a refresh. And then when I got home, I watched some of the clips. Basically, from what I saw, was Wilder is still a one-trick pony with his power. Yep. It almost worked.
Yeah.
He got knocked down in the 3rd round, more of a flash knockdown. He got up, and Fury walked right into a punch, which he is prone to do. If you look at some of Fury's times in his career,
Yep.
he will have lapses in concentration.
I'll tell you his weakness right now. Right? Okay? His up jab.
Like
what do I say about white guys throwing up jabs? He shouldn't do it. With the exception of Caleb Plant.
Yeah.
Caleb Plant's really good at it because he does the shoulder roll, he slips punches, but he does tend to get that side of his face bruised up. So the second knockdown in the 4th round would have never happened if at least Fury decided, all right, I'm not going to leave my hand down when I'm in close. After I throw that up jab, I'm going to bring it back to my chin. Because when he does have both hands up in proper boxing style, when he brings that left hand back to his face, he is unstoppable. There were several moments in that fight where he used that defense. He also used a little bit of like a half George Foreman defense where he put his elbows up. But I'll tell you what really won that fight was fucking grappling. Which shouldn't be involved in boxing at all. But there was nothing the ref could do about it except stop him from putting him in a headlock. Which he turned into, at one point in the fight, in the middle of the fight, he turned that into, okay, I'm going to put you in a headlock. Nope, I'm going to uppercut you. Like, the thing that makes him such a great fighter is not any one thing. It's all the different things. And what I noticed, I just watched the fight like an hour ago, so it's fresh in my mind. But what I noticed more than anything was that he had a complete game which changed as the fight went on. Okay, so the first part of the fight, his strategy was to just lean on him, keep the fight in close if he could, use his shoulders, use his arms, use his head, and just lean on him, bump into him, push him around. And he landed very few punches that really were meaningful in the first few rounds. Other than the one that knocked him down, and I think it was the 3rd round. But then again,
Yeah,
his strategy was primarily to take away the range of Deontay Wilder. And the only time he got hit really hard was when he slipped into Deontay's range and he got hit with a vicious hard right hand right to the temple. And of course he was still a little bit off balance when he got the second knockdown. But if he had his hand up by his head, that left hand, he wouldn't have had to worry about that punch. But he's got this bad habit of not only having his hand down by his waist sometimes, but sometimes just resting right in the middle of his thigh or behind his ass cheek. And you can't even bring it up fast enough if you wanted to from there for defense. So if he could break himself of that habit and maybe only do that when he's out of range, because he's comfortable with it, but then just bring it back up, I mean, he would be invincible. Nobody could beat him. But if I was a heavyweight fighter getting ready to fight him, I would pick up on that and take advantage of it if he doesn't change, because that is his major weakness. And, he does have a decent up jab, so it's going to be hard to break him of that habit. He probably won't be broken of that habit, but I'm telling you, that is the one flaw he has. And it's the only thing that Deontay was able to take advantage of. But after that, I think he landed one really nice uppercut in the 9th, and really not much else, because what Fury did was he kept it close range, where Wilder does not have the technical training that he needs. He just throws arm punches. He's just slapping. There's nothing with the base underneath him. His legs are sprawled way too far apart. He just has a shitty boxing stance unless he's at distance. And he was throwing body shots in the first round. And Tyson Fury's belly was completely red.
I saw that.
If he had kept that up and kept his range and just pitter-patter here, pitter-patter there, and didn't fall into the grappling and the in-close fighting, he would have been all set. But Tyson just kind of hypnotized him into fighting his fight. And after that knockdown, I mean, there was
I'll tell you, watching
like a 5-second period where Deontay came to life later in the fight. But, those 2 knockdowns were it for him. He knew it. And he just had that look on his face the entire time, like it was an ordeal. Like he didn't want to be there. But Tyson Fury was, excited, in the game, focused, Deontay Wilder was somewhere else the entire fight. And it was like he was psychologically beaten before he even threw a punch or got a punch thrown at him. But
I'll tell you, man, I've watched Tyson Fury's career. And Tyson, you're right. He will have those lapses. I remember that early fight in his career with Steve Cunningham. Steve, at cruiserweight, wasn't a big puncher, and he was only 208 pounds. And Fury at the time might have been 245, 250. It's still, a significant weight difference. But Steve landed that straight right hand off the ropes and toppled Fury over. So when he was fighting Wilder the first time, I was like, in my mind, I always usually get a vision of a fight. What's going to happen? Sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong. The vision I had was exactly what happened in the 12th round of that first fight, which was Wilder landing that big straight right hand, Fury toppling over, except my vision had it happening around 5 or 6 rounds, and Fury not getting up. And he got up, and he outfought Wilder literally that whole fight. And they happened to draw. Second fight, he walked him down. Then when Fury had that one fight, he was fighting a guy 2 years ago. He had the fight with Tom Schwartz, which was his U.S. debut party, and he came out there living in America. He just wiped this guy, wiped him out in 3 rounds. But then he fought a really tough, undefeated fighter named Otto Wallin. And Wallin was the guy that cut him real bad. So everybody thinks that fight and thinks of Fury fight with that real bad cut. What I think of is in the 12th round, Fury got a little sloppy, and he got rocked pretty good. So that's one of the things, he will lose concentration. Yeah. So in this fight, from the clips that I saw...
But it's weird because his weaknesses work for him sometimes. Because he changes around, people will adapt for how he's originally fighting, but then he's fighting a different way later in the fight, and it's what the hell? I just threw the knockout punch, but he blocked it, and he hasn't been blocking it all fight.
Yeah. Yeah. But so the thing is, what I see sometimes that concerns me a little bit is where not his bravado, which we all know he had, but it's that he gets his momentary lapses in concentration, and that's when he gets hit in that back. Wilder had a good first round, landed some body shots. Fury started doing what he does in the second round. Fury had the flash knockdown in the third. It was kind of a cuffing punch. Then the fourth round, Fury was coming forward, and he once again, last conversation, walked into a punch. Boom, he wobbles. Wilder lands another shot. Fury goes down. And then I don't know what because on the highlights that I watched, it didn't show the full count. So people are bitching. Oh, we got a long count. He got a long count.
That was Andre Ward. Andre Ward was pissed.
Second.
He was obviously, favoring Deontay Wilder. But it was funny because everybody celebrated and was like jumping out of their seats, and Andre Ward's just sitting there, and he's like, I don't get excited about those kind of things. I've seen a lot of knockouts. But you could tell he was butthurt because he was he probably bet on Wilder.
Right. Yeah. Well, so a lot of people were saying, like, oh, it was a long count. Like I said, but...
Because Wilder wouldn't get back in the corner.
Oh.
That's why.
What?
Wilder wouldn't get back in the corner for the first knockdown. I saw it, and I knew that's what it was about. So Wilder didn't get in the corner. He told him to get in the corner, and then he started counting. But literally, there was like maybe 3 seconds, and you knew Tyson Fury was going to get up. He wasn't lost out there. He just lost his balance because he got hit directly on the temple that first shot.
Right. Here's one that people argue 30 years later, and Tyson Douglas. Same incident. So Tyson's getting his ass kicked. He lands the big uppercut in the 8th round, and Douglas goes down. So now I have these people, and I still read them all the time on these chat rooms, and they're like, that's not fair. Tyson got ripped off. Tyson, not Tyson Fury. Mike Tyson got ripped off. It was a long count. Douglas was down for 12 seconds. I said, I want you to go back, and I want you to watch 2 instances of that fight, Tyson-Douglas. When Douglas goes down, first thing he does is he props himself on his left elbow, and he hits the ground with his right hand, showing that he's coherent, and he's a little upset with himself for getting caught.
Yeah.
The referee picks up the count at 1, where he should have picked it up at, say, 3. He picks it up at 1. Douglas is looking at him the whole time, and he gets up at the count of 8. If he picked it up at 3 or 4, Douglas still would have got up at the count of 8. Now, when Tyson goes down 2 rounds later, the referee does the same thing. He picks it up at the count of 1, where he should have picked it up at, say, 3 or 4, which it didn't matter because as soon as Tyson got up, they were waving it off anyway. But you can't argue with people on this. So people are going to say, oh, it wasn't fair. Wilder got ripped off. Fury the whole time had no problem getting up. Even the first fight, he was down on the ground for 13 seconds. Yeah, maybe he was. And then someone said, it's not seconds. It's the number of the counts. The referee, it depends on the referee. Each referee has a different cadence.
Yeah. I'll tell you who they needed in there the other night was friggin' Big John McCarthy. If he ever refereed boxing, because that little referee just could not break them up. And if Wilder has any complaint, it's that Tyson Fury got away with a lot of dirty boxing, as they call it in the MMA world, because he was holding and hitting the majority of his body shots the first round. He had a hold of an arm while he was hitting, and Wilder was doing that back a little bit, but obviously not enough to affect him. And you could call that just. That's the nature of the game, right? Shit happens. But the thing that really was slick...
I've been in boxing for 30 years now.
What really I saw that was slick, that probably a lot of people didn't see, was, you saw there was a couple times in the fight where Wilder had his paw, the boxing glove, behind Fury's head, but he never hit him when he did that. Fury would pull the head down like a wrestler almost with that, and then sneak an uppercut in and pull the hand off like he never had it on there. Brilliant little move, but totally legal. Completely legal. And, that's the kind of different shit that he does that makes him different than any other fighter I've seen. Especially a heavyweight, And that looping shot that finally did the trick was very impressive because, I could see it too.
Oh, yeah.
Wilder in the corner was blinking on that side. Like, that hurt. I think he cracked a friggin' orbital bone or something with that shot. Because it wasn't necessarily the perfect turn of the hips. It was just the looping shot. He could throw an arm punch and knock you out. And he doesn't have to be in the perfect foot position. He is that awkward. He can just be standing there flat-footed and friggin' club you down. He's a big dude. So he's gonna be tough to beat.
With the after Fury he got up from those knockdowns. And you can see he started, imposing his size throughout that fight. And that's something, like I said, I learned 20 years ago in Philadelphia with Gerald Noble, the Jedi, 250-some pound heavyweight. And I was about 190, 195 when we got in the ring together. And I remember him getting me in a clinch and getting me against the ropes and putting all that weight on me. And he looked at me. He had his glove wrapped around the back of my neck, and he was, pushing my head down. And he was leaning me on the ropes, and he said, I'm making you tired right now. I am putting all of my weight on your legs. So right now, your legs are holding your 190-some pounds and my 250 pounds. Your legs are holding almost 450 pounds. And you're right, it does wear you out. And Tyson's a master at that. The other thing I really got up is, you can see, Wilder really getting progressively tired from that, basically physical boxing. That's what you call it. I mean, I don't want to call it dirty boxing. I want to call it physical boxing because Rocky Marciano was a guy that, he was getting close with you, and he was 185 pounds, but he was naturally strong. He would use his strength to wear you down.
Yeah.
Fury did it as a 277.
Well, they called it rabbit punches.
His size to wear you down.
That's what they were pissed about. Actually, Wilder's corner made a formal complaint to the referee, and the referee was warning him and even talking to him at the end of the fight about these supposed rabbit punches. But I think that's what he was talking about, where he was hooking one arm and then just throwing punches to the body. They call those rabbit punches, but I mean, what are rabbit punches anyway? I mean, it's kind of fucking elusive definition if you ask me.
Rabbit punches are to the back of the head.
I don't think that's what he was talking about.
Punches are, back of the head, back of the neck. So you always hear a referee's instructions. They watch the low blows, kidney punches, rabbit punches, and they'll always say no holding and hitting. So you can't hold an opponent with your one hand, hit him with the other.
Yeah. I think that's what they meant. They were calling them rabbit punches, but I think that was their biggest complaint they could have had. Although, there was this shot at the end of Deontay, and his friggin' ear was exploded again. So he was obviously punched in the ear a bunch of times. So
yeah, I saw that.
Could have been behind the ear, too. But anyway, they've actually got the prelims on now on Fox Sports 2. So I'm watching the Berlanga fight. He got a big win.
Hey, I already got knocked down.
Oh, I guess so. I haven't seen that yet.
Did I spoil that?
Uh-oh.
The prelims are on what channel?
Fox Sports 2.
Okay, I'm putting that on right now. Because there was some,
he gonna win.
Frank
Robert Helenius?
Sanchez beat F.A. Ajagba.
Oh, yeah.
Helenius beat Adam Kanaki again.
Yep. Helenius versus Kanaki. Kieran Conway over James Metcalf. I guess that was over in the UK. Robin Krasniqi losing to Dominic Bozell. Let's see.
Give me 1 moment. I'll be right back with you, okay?
Sure. Guess I'll do some. Oh, Julian Williams. He lost to Vladimir Hernandez. And we got some fights this weekend, of course. We had a one UFC card last week. No Bellator. No one championship or PFL or anything like that. And we had Marina Rodriguez beating the jiu-jitsu specialist there, Mackenzie Dern. It was a unanimous decision win for all 5 rounds. And, Randy Brown in the co-main event beating Jared Gooden by unanimous decision.
I wanted to go get my dad's shop in Toronto.
Okay. I'm just going through the UFC Fight Night results real quick. 7th fight of the night, Mateus Nicolau beating Tim Elliott by unanimous decision. Maria Agapova beating Sabina Maisel by rear naked choke. Just 53 seconds into the 3rd round. Chris Gutierrez over Felipe Diaz-Caleres by split decision. Alexander Romanov over Jared Vanderhaar by TKO. Punches from accumulation of punches there. And 4:43 of the 2nd round. Damon Jackson over Charles Rosa by unanimous decision in the 3rd fight of the night. Lupita Godinez got a quick armbar submission 4 minutes and 14 seconds into her fight against Silvana Gomez Juarez. And then the first fight of the night ended in a TKO for Steve Garcia over Charlie Ontiveros. Yeah, it was another situation where I didn't get to even put together a FanDuel lineup because of the shit I was dealing with that night. Mentally screwed up, buddy. And then this weekend we have a, we're just going to go through like the first 4 fights here. 5 fights, 6 fights maybe. Okay, so main event, Aspen Ladd versus Norma Dumont. Aspen is 9-1. Norma's 6-1. And she just had that weight cancellation issue, so it's crazy to see her so quickly put on the next card. But anyway, Andre Arlovski versus Carlos Felipe in the co-main event. Arlovski is 31-20. Felipe is 11-1. And we got journeyman Jim Miller. He is 32-16 against Eric Gonzalez, who's 14-5. Manon Fiorot, 7-1 against Myra Bueno Silva, who's 7-1-1. They call him the Cuban Missile Crisis. Julian Marquez, he's 9-2. Very colorful character there. Very tough fighter. He's fighting Jordan Wright, 12-1. Very stiff competition there. And then we'll do this one. Andrew Sanchez, 12-6 against Bruno Silva, 20-6. That should be a good card. We've also got Bellator 268 this weekend. Nemkov versus Anglikas. And the guy with Vadim Nemkov, he's 13-2. Julius Anglikas, he's 10-1. And the tournament, the light heavyweight tournament continues. Ryan Bader, 28-6 against Corey Big Truck Anderson there. He's 15-5. Oh boy, this is going to be a mean one. It's like a knockout artist versus a wrestler, like the old school UFC stuff. And then speaking of old school UFC, Benson Henderson, veteran from there, he's back at it again, 28-10, fighting Brent Primus, who's 10-2. And Benson's just up and down lately. You never know what to expect out of him. Sometimes he has enough talent and experience to win, other times you wonder why he keeps doing it. So we'll see which Benson Henderson shows up this time. But we got a former guest of ours on the card too, Henry Corrales, moving up the card. He's on the main event here at 18-6, fighting Vladislav Parabchenko, who's 15-2. What does that mean? That thing, but he's on the main card, I should say. And then, this guy's got a hell of a name. Dovletsdan Yagshimorodov. I'm definitely butchering it. He's 18-6-1, fighting Carl Albrechtsson, who's 12-3. Yeah, there's some preliminaries, but we're definitely not going through all of this. So that's it for MMA this week. I guess we'll go right to Saturday boxing. I know I got one other story to cover. About another. There's supposedly going to be a mixed rules fight with another UFC guy crossover to one fighting championship. Demetrius Johnson there, who was the pound for pound best in the UFC forever. So he's doing like a mixed rules contest with a jiu-jitsu guy. Or no, a Muay Thai guy. So they're gonna go like half Muay Thai rules, half MMA rules. It's one of those unique things that's going on I never heard of, but that's in the news. So we'll have to talk with Tom about that one next week, because it's obviously not coming up anytime soon. I think it's their next thing is at the end of the month. But yeah, what they'll do to sell tickets these days. Alright, so
ain't that the truth?
Saturday, some fights. Dominican Republic. We got the Battle of Losers over here in France. Martin Owono at middleweight. He's 7-33-3, fighting Mathieu Raymond, who's 1-7-1. here's a guy with a name for success, fighting for the vacant Ghanaian featherweight title. First of all, we got a holy guy, Holy Dorg Bedar. He's 7-0, fighting Success Teta. That's his name, Success. 10-2.
Well, I mean, that's a good name. But it's successful.
Yeah.
You know, you still want to. You don't want to not live up to it.
Right. 2 losses, 10 wins. Featherweight. Ghanaian featherweight title. Main event there is pretty decent, actually. Robert Quay, he's 19-0, fighting Nathaniel Nukpe, who is 13-7 with 1 draw, but it looks like 4 of those 7 were in his last 6. So probably an opponent situation there. And probably related to Ike Cordy, Emmanuel Cordy, 23-3, fighting Joshua Owusu in the middle of this one. And Owusu is not the betting favorite, obviously, because this is the mismatch of the week. Owusu is 1-20-0.
Well, no draws at least.
Fighting a Cordy. Yeah, probably not going to win that one.
You want the pesky draws.
It's a miracle long shot if that guy wins. I'm going to pay somebody to fix the fight just so I can bid on it. $1 million. Over in Latvia, there's a decent cruiserweight fight for the IBF World Cruiserweight title. Maris Bradis, 27-1, fighting Archer Mann, who is 17-1. 10 fights difference, but it's 2 big names going at it. Nothing really spectacular on the undercard there, though. Some Mexican fights. I love it how you still got TBA shit. It's Wednesday. They still don't know what's going to be happening Saturday. One entire card in the United Kingdom is TBAs. Oh, but another Fury is in action on Saturday over in the United Kingdom. Huey Fury. He is 25-3.
No, his brother.
Yeah, fighting Christian Hammer, which is a great name for a religious warrior, I guess. Christian Hammer. He's 26-7.
It would be like Thor's Mjolnir if it was baptized.
Oh, here's our somebody's always got to go fight. The female fight here on this card at middleweight. 10-0 Savannah Marshall and 16-0 Lolita Musea for the WBO World Female Middleweight title. And I don't even know either of these girls, but that rarely happens in the female fighting ranks. So more power to them if they can do this. And it sucks that they do it so much overseas. When you know, there's like countless UFC cards where the female fights are on the main event. In America, they tend to put the female fights off the main card unless they're huge names. And here's some girls here co-main eventing on a big card with a Fury on it. And there's another one, Chris Eubank Jr., 30-2, fighting Wanik Al-Dijan, who's 28-1. So great fight card. And guess who else is on it? Somebody you know, you share a town with.
Yeah, my boy Hank won.
Big Hank, 31-9-1, fighting Lewis Ritson, 21-2. But those 2 losses have come recently. In his last 6, so Hank could rough him up. You never know.
Yeah, I follow a lot. I follow Hank a lot on social media. We still communicate, from time to time. And I mean, he's a guy. He's easy to like. Like we interviewed him when we were first really starting. Man, I remember when I got his call. I was actually in the airport getting ready to go to Clearwater for the first time. And I'm sitting in this airport. I had no idea where I'm going. I know nothing about this trip, and I'm trying to book an interview. So that's like that. How long he and I go back, and I even knew him a few years prior to that. And he's the guy. He's always going to give you 100%. I mean, he went out there and fought the best in the world, Terrence Crawford. And like I said, he got stopped in 5 rounds. But, I mean, he was toe-to-toe and even took a round from Crawford, which a lot of guys can't say they did.
Right. Well, we've got another big card.
This Berlanga fight from last week. And I'm like, do you think maybe, I'm just watching this a little bit, that his aura is, I really want to see it now. He just got hit with a right hand right there. He had that streak where he was like knocking everybody out. As soon as he would touch a guy, they would go down.
Yeah.
And then he had the fight where he finally went past the first round.
Yeah, I watched that.
And he ended up going 10.
Yeah.
And now it's like, he just got tagged twice. We're in the 6th round. I know he gets knocked down. I think it's in the 9th. And I know he wins. But now is like, first of all, it's like that a little bit of aura, that fear gone, where guys know maybe, hey, if we put him on his back foot. Perfect example I'll give you was Tito Trinidad. And Tito was a great fighter to watch. He was a can't-miss fighter on TV. Tito was a guy, he would come sneak and destroy. And like I said, his Achilles heel was he could be outboxed because he was heavy-footed. I thought De La Hoya won that fight until he ran away. But, Tito was very stationary because he was loading up on the punches. A guy like Bernard Hopkins finally was able to exploit him on that and use feints and, angles where Tito couldn't set his feet. So now I'm thinking, I think what you're going to see happen to Berlanga is kind of a cross between Tito Trinidad and a Philly kid named Tyrone Brunson, who had 18 straight first-round knockouts. And a fight or two after he got taken past that first round, guys knew how to get to him a little bit, and he is now, a journeyman.
Yeah. Well, we got a card here I'm going to mention on the way to the big DAZN card, probably the best card of the week. It's at the venue at Coosa Landing in Gadsden, Alabama. And there's a big journeyman in the co-main event we're going to talk about. But main event is Noel Echevarria, 19-7, against another guy with a great name for fighting, Jerome Conquest. He's 11-5, fighting for the Universal Boxing Organization World Lightweight title. And then the co-main event here, sort of another mismatch of the week, Michael Williams Jr. He's 18-0 at welterweight, fighting Gustavo Molina.
I actually follow his father on social media.
Gustavo Molina, he is 24-24, 500. He's looking to beat the 500. He might go to 24-25 on this one, though, I'm pretty sure. But they're fighting for the USA Alabama State welterweight title. I think it's a little bit special for Mr. Williams, but I think he's going to have a good shot at that one. Just a gut feeling. And then we go to DAZN from Fresno, California. Light flyweight main event, Elwin Soto, who is 19-1, and Jonathan Gonzalez, who is 24-3-1 for the title here, WBO World Light Flyweight title. And then Mikey Garcia is back in action, 40-1, fighting Sandor Martin, who is 38-2. And I don't have his record right in front of me, but those two for Martin have not come in his last 6, whereas the one lone loss for Garcia did come a few fights ago here. Box record. And we got another undefeated fighter, Brock Jarvis, 19-0, fighting Alejandro Frias Rodriguez, who is 13-4-2. We got a lot of undefeateds on the left column here. We got Jesse Rodriguez, who is 13-0, fighting Jose Alejandro Burgos, 18-4-1. Then we got the 12-0s. Some of these O's got to go here. I don't know if he's related to Ferdy, but we got Diego Pacheco, who is 12-0, fighting Lucas D. Abreu, who is also 12-0. So that should be a good one at super middleweight. And we got Sandy Duverson, 11-4, fighting Nikita Ababi, who is 10-0. There's nothing special in this card, but I gotta mention this guy's name. Down in Clearwater, Florida, Alvarez, not Canelo Alvarez, but Iron Alvarez at lightweight. He's 13-0. His name is Iron. I mean, how can you not be 13-0?
Good name. So, you know what? If your name's Iron, you better not have a weak chin.
Right? He's fighting Jonathan Hernan Godoy, who is 5-10. So I think Iron will stay undefeated this weekend. That's a good one. A lot of great names for fighters.
They joke like some of those like 5'3", they call them. They are, or some of those like 8'2", they'll call them tiny. Or someone that's like 5'2", they'll call him big.
Right.
Joe, whatever. So it's like, hey, Iron. Yeah, he's been knocked out like 7 consecutive fights. Or like Thunder, somebody with like no punching power.
Yeah.
Flash is something that's like amazingly slow. And that's like that's not a nickname. That's like a real name. Like, hey, this is my son Thunder. Oh, really, man? You must be a hell of a puncher. Yeah, I'm like, whatever. No knockouts. There's somebody. Hey, I got my kid. His name's Flash. Yeah, he just ran the 100-meter dash. How'd he do? He came in dead last.
Speedy Gonzalez. So we have another fight in Framingham, Massachusetts, down at the Sheraton Hotel. Super middleweight's in the main event. 7-0 Elvis Figueroa. So we got our Elvis fight of the week, fighting Larry Smith. And Larry Smith has a record like you would think a Larry Smith would have. He is 12-49-2. Looking for big loss, I should say. Loss number 50. Looking for that big 5-0. Maybe he'll retire then.
Look, I made my 50th loss. I can go now.
Co-main event, we've got a guy possibly looking for his 48th loss. Josniel Castro, 5-0 against Rynell Griffin, who's 8-47-2. That's a crazy card. Then in Dearborn, Michigan. Well, no, we'll get that one. Got a different one. Down in Brooklyn. It's going to be on USA Fight TV, F-I-T-E. We've got Petros Ananian, 15-2-2, fighting Daniel Gonzalez, who's 20 wins, 2 losses, 1 draw is his record, with a vacant WBA Continental Americas Super Lightweight title. And then the NABA Super Lightweight title is also on the line in the co-main event. Cletus Selden, I believe he's related to the other Selden, Bruce. He is 25-1, fighting William Silva, who is 28-3.
Is that his son, mate?
It's his son or nephew, I believe. But it's definitely same spelling and everything. Same area. He's from Brooklyn. What else do you need? Also, this is a pretty decent card. Jose Roman, he's 11-0, fighting Cesar Francis, who is 8-0. How about that? A Roman fighting Caesar. That joke makes itself.
Speaking of that, I love Fury's ring of time this week when he walked wearing like the Centurion soldier.
Oh, yeah. It's just the confidence, I truly thought that Wilder had that look in his eyes like he was beaten before he even got in there. And he kind of knew. He said at the post-fight thing, he said something about knowing that he was going to be leaned on and everything like that. He kind of knew what to expect, but there was just nothing he could do about it. It was going to go the way it was going to go. So anyway, back to Brooklyn. We've got super lightweights rounding off this card. Will Madera, 16-1-3. And I'm definitely going to butcher this one. Jamshidbek Nurmagomedov. He's 17-1. I feel bad for the announcers. That'll be tough. That's it for the week. Yeah. As far as I know. Let me check my little laptop that we record on, see if I left anything out. I think I caught everything. And here's this Demetrius Johnson thing I was talking about. So here's the deal. He's got 2 rounds to impose his MMA skills on his Muay Thai opponent. who in turn will get 2 of his own to show his Muay Thai pedigree. So I guess the first 2 rounds are all MMA rules, and the second 2 rounds are going to be all Muay Thai. So, well, at least he's not Riddick Bowe trying to do that. Against somebody.
Right.
He's got some training, so, I mean, who knows? I don't know what the deal is, though, if he gets choked out or knocked out in the MMA portion. How are they going to do the next 2? I guess we'll find out. So I guess we'll talk more about that one next week. Wait a second.
Brent, he sent me a post the other day regarding the Fury Wilder fight. I forgot to bring it up earlier. But it goes, what did it look like before Fury landed the knockout punch? And it was Ivan Drago with Apollo Creed on the ropes, landing like this monster right hand, and Creed like buckling.
I might be wrong on Cletus. It's calling him the Hebrew Hammer. I don't think Bruce Seldon was Jewish.
Yeah, I don't remember that. I don't know, Rich. I went to a fight
It was
one
spelled
time
wrong.
in Atlantic City.
Seldon is...
The guy on the card. His name was Carl.
Bruce is Seldon, right?
He didn't look very Irish.
So yeah, I got it wrong. It's not related. Bruce Seldon is Seldon, and this kid is Seldin.
Ah.
He calls himself the Hebrew Hammer.
I think Seldon's son is named Isaiah.
Yeah. That's where I got it from. Because he boxes too, right?
Yeah. And I remember it wasn't a very common name, so it was like maybe that.
Right. Well, corrected myself this week. Alright, I guess that's it for us. Quick show. But congratulations to Tyson Fury. I definitely think he is the most classy individual that boxing could have as a heavyweight champion. And, usually I don't really like a lot of the guys that just sit there and, thank Jesus, praise Jesus, and everything like that. But in his case, you got to love the guy because it's obviously had such an impact on his life that it got him out of the lowest of the lows, where he was ballooned up and doing drugs and everything like that. And if it takes a come to Jesus moment for you to do that, I don't care if we have to hear about it for 10 minutes of the post-fight interview, because it's obviously made him a better person. So go for it.
You know what, he is, obviously extremely charismatic, and when he was for the first 2 years, I was not a fan of his at all. I was not at all, right? And then he had his first Wilder fight, and I'm like, this is where he's gonna get his comeuppance, and he's gonna get blasted out of there. And as that fight happened, and he got him from that knockdown, and then the fact that he came right to Wilder after that happened, I'm like, I gained a lot of respect for him. I really became a fan. His first fight in the U.S. or his first fight after that when he fought Tom Schwartz, he did the whole Apollo Creed thing, and I'm like, this guy's cracking me up. I'm like, I'm loving this right now. This is the way he's talking, whatever. So I became a fan, and when he got him from Wilder the first time, and then he totally won me over. Up there goes Malanga down. He totally won me over when he did that Apollo Creed entrance, and then the following fight he did the whole look at that eye. He did the whole Mexican wrestling mask for Mexican Independence Day, and I'm like,
oh Jesus,
this guy has got it, man. And like I said, he really won me over.
Yeah, he's going.
Well, Berlanga's taking some shots here.
Yeah.
Well, Bell might have saved him.
Well, that was the other thing too. Tyson Fury had a big old knot on his eye, and it was maybe 7th or 8th round. No, it was 9th. I think it was when Wilder hit him with that brilliant uppercut that if he followed it up with a few more punches, Fury would be in trouble, but it was kind of too late in the round. And it was one of the only points where the announcers
left at that point.
were giving him a lot of credit. But what ended up happening was Fury got this lump on his eye. It was big round ball, almost like an egg, but not quite, because it was on his eyelid, right above his eyelid. It wasn't really on the side of his head. So anyway, his cut people got that gone within a round. It was just gone. You couldn't even tell it was there. So, pretty good stuff. But, a lot of people were talking about, well, how do you think his corner did, Deontay Wilder, too? And Malik Scott was with him for the first time instead of, what's his name there? Mark Breland, who obviously had a lot of controversy swirling around the second fight. First, letting him go out on his shield. But even though Andre Ward wasn't too excited about the knockout, he was the quickest one to pipe in, well, Deontay Wilder got his wish and got to go out on his shield.
Right.
It was the best quote of the weekend. So, yeah, sometimes you get what you wish for.
Exactly. Well, you know what, like, somebody put that on social media platform, they're like, who's ready for Fury Wilder 4? People are like, fine. Yeah, Fury might have gotten knocked down 4 times in the span of, what was it, 29 rounds they fought.
Yeah.
But the fact is, I think he won.
Yeah.
He figured 26 of those 29 rounds. Maybe 25 of those 29 rounds. But I did have Wilder winning the first round the other night.
Yeah, but it's too bad. I mean, everything is wrong about the technical aspects of his fighting style. It's too bad nobody has been able to recognize that and fix it in these last few fights. Because, if he was able to turn on his toes and his heels and throw his hooks like, you're supposed to throw hooks the dynamic, correct boxing way.
Are you talking about Wilder?
Yeah. He's
talking about Wilder?
When you're taught to box, the very first thing is you keep your feet shoulder width apart, no matter how tall you are, right? And this dude is always as wide as possible, and you have no power that way.
I don't think he wants to learn. I don't think he's lived so long on that power, and he's fallen so in love with it, that he never really learned how to box. And I've said that about other fighters too. You've done, like I said about football last week, we were talking about some quarterbacks that had terrible work ethic, that didn't want to put time in. Why is Tom Brady called the GOAT? Because maybe he wasn't the most talented guy, but he was very intelligent. He knew how to read defenses and make the calls. He knew how to adapt. He knew how to find the opening. He knew how to, stay calm under pressure. And he knew how to come back when he was behind. That's why he's seen as the GOAT. You take other guys that maybe were physically superior, stronger arms, played in a college with a more wide open offense, but they were unable. They always wanted to survive on their arm strength. When you can't always do that, you got to maybe learn how to read a defense and float one instead of fire one 70 yards.
Yeah,
I think Wilder has that same problem. He's so in love with his power, he never learned anything else. And they say it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks.
Yeah. It's
harder to teach an old dog any tricks when he's never been taught any tricks to start with.
Right.
And I think he's like I said, Jimmy McNally, coach of the U.S. Naval Academy, we were sitting at the bar in Lock Haven 3 years ago, and Wilder was fighting Luis Ortiz that night, their first fight. And we were sitting there having a beer, and he said to me, he goes, yeah, Wilder's fighting tonight. We were following him on our phones. And he goes, what? He goes, I was with him in Beijing in 2008. And he goes, I've never, ever, ever in my life seen punching power like that man has. He has a natural gift from God. His jab registers higher than a lot of guys' right hand. But he's a fraud. He's a fraud because his footwork's terrible. He's not learning. He's not adapting. Nothing we were trying to teach him was registering. Right. So you could bring Freddie Roach in his corner. You could bring, Angelo Dundee and, back from the grave. You could bring everybody. You could put Teddy Atlas in there. You could put Lee Duva in there. You could put Emmanuel Stewart in there. Doesn't matter. Ain't going to work because he's never going to adapt.
Yeah. Oh, well. We'll see where he goes from here. But, I don't think Malik Scott's going to be in his corner too long either. I'll probably blame him at some point.
Yeah.
But anyway, That's it for us this week.
He's a good guy, you know.
Go ahead.
So good. I don't think my team will be beating the sheep or the llama tomorrow night, and definitely not the goat.
Hey, don't sell yourself
Well, they did
short.
win last week.
You guys just beat the Raiders.
No, we beat the Panthers.
Oh, I thought you guys just beat the Raiders.
We beat the shitty-ass Panthers.
Oh.
The league beat the Raiders.
Right. Fucking, ugh. That's
and the thing is, that game, because that was the only game I had wrong last week, game cost me $250.
Oh, no.
My team wins, it cost me $250.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chuba Hubbard there was the guy to have last week, the running back there in that game, even though they lost.
Yeah, he put up monster numbers. My team put up pretty monster numbers this week, so I was kind of happy after I had an upset loss the previous week.
Yeah, I was just glad to see the Red Sox demolish the Rays and the look of shock on their faces.
Yeah, I see that.
At the end of the last game.
I got friends of mine from Tampa, you know, when I go down there every year, and
I've never seen people with more shock in their eyes and their expressions after a game loss. Like, because, I mean, you think about how good they did this year and how many times they beat us. And even I was like, oh, yeah, we snuck one by you. You bastards.
Well, hey, perfect example. You know, like that year, 10 years now that the Phillies have been shitty. But the last time they were good was 10 years ago. And they cruised the whole season, 100 and some wins by mid-September. And now, it was right after they clinched the division, they went on a losing streak, like literally like 8 games in a row. And it's like, yeah, okay, we already got the division. We already got like the quote-unquote number 1 seed. So it really doesn't matter, you know, but their bats went cold. Their pitching, you know, was mediocre. They were resting starters. When they got to the playoffs, it was a 5-game series against the Cardinals. They were flat. They won, they won the first game.
Fortunately.
Lost the second game. Won the third game. Lost 4 and 5. 5, they barely got a hit.
Yeah,
and,
Astros,
102 wins.
Astros dispatched the fucking White Sox in the last game 10-1, so they're coming off a real fiery performance, and they're putting up a lot of good hitting numbers, so it's going to be tough for us to get by them. But, you know, they get in the World Series, it's like they're unstoppable, the Red Sox. Every time they get into the postseason, it seems like they just put together win streaks. Crazy.
Well, you know what I learned? It's a team that gets hot at the end. The year we lost to the Cardinals got real hot at the end, squeaked into the playoff, but they were on a good streak. They breezed right through, and they basically won the whole thing. The year we won in 2008, we were down 4 games in mid-September, and then we went on a streak, got into the playoffs. We went 11-3 that year in the playoffs. So, like, Boston won. Boston was down 3-0 to the Yankees. They won 8 straight games. 4 against the Yankees, 4 against I think it was the Cardinals that year.
Yeah, that was the one. That was the one that I got involved in myself. I got to write about that one. The breaking of the curse.
Yeah.
Alright. Well.
Alright, man.
We shall talk next
week. Enjoy your weekend.
Lots of bites.
Alright, see you later.
Adios.